Most of us are leading very busy lives, consumed by a multitude of tasks, expectations, worries, and unexpected problems to solve. Raising our heads to pay attention to the outer reality is sometimes really difficult. Finding our own way to help, being able to devote time and energy to a cause without financial reward may seem like an even harder challenge. But not only can it change others' lives, it can change ours too. Volunteering is critical for our human societies. It offers essential help to worthwhile causes, people in need, and the wider community. Many organizations and charities only exist thanks to the energy of volunteers. In an increasingly competitive job market, we have to define what kind of company we want to be and what kind of business we want to do. Do we want to just look at ourselves? Or do we want to look at others and be driven by purpose? Do we want to limit ourselves to serve our customers well? Or do we want to create a deeper connection with our brand? Do we want to give our employees only the perks and a paycheck? Or do we want to impact them with a greater sense of belonging? The answer is clear. We want to engage our extraordinary people in doing extraordinary things for the sake of others. We want our excellent professionals to share their skills to transform the communities in which they live. We want to do good and drive positive cultural change, together. None of us is as good as all of us together. By gathering individual actions, we become greater. We can create an impact that has positive ripple effects across society and economy. This is what the EDP Volunteering Program is about. With volunteering, everyone wins. We have to and we can put into action the best of us. We have to and we can get more involved in making this world a better place for all. This is one of the most ambitious projects we'll ever have, and the most rewarding one as well. In the end, what will remain of us is our hearts, our intentions, and our actions. Do we want to fall behind, or do we want to play a role?
Hello and welcome. My name is Rita Monteiro, and it is a great pleasure to join you today at EDP Corporate Volunteering Conference to celebrate the strength of corporate volunteering and the power that we have as a global community of extraordinary human beings to change lives and make a difference. Today we mark 10 years of our corporate volunteering program, of challenging our people to engage with the communities where we operate, of helping the ones that are most needed, of making the world a better place. And to officially kick off our event, let's hear from Vera Pinto Pereira, Executive Board Member at EDP, who has left us a very inspiring message.
Hello everyone, welcome to the EDP Corporate Volunteering Conference, an event organized by the EDP Group that brings us all together, volunteers, partners, and all of those who believe in the power of volunteering to celebrate a decade of making a difference in the lives of those around us. Today's event aims to celebrate this great achievement and to inspire you on the role we can all play. Now, over the past 10 years, more than 30,000 EDP volunteers have impacted the lives of more than 2 million people through this corporate volunteer program. A milestone we should all be very proud of, but we want to go even further. The world is living unprecedented times, and the needs for structural transformation is here, and it is now. EDP is therefore stepping up to the challenge by leading the energy transition and shaping a more responsible society. We're committed to being a reference in ESG, and we will accelerate our efforts across all dimensions. On the social dimension, we actually took a step back to rethink and redesign our strategy and our approach. With a renewed level of ambition, our work on a social dimension is evolving to be in full alignment with our business agenda, a fair energy transition, which is our key social cause, through which we will support a mix of global projects and local initiatives. To secure the coordination and elevate our impact, we've also created an independent social impact coordination office that we call SEQUEL, The creation of this office and the rethinking of the way we want to operate in our communities portrays the strengthened commitment of EDP towards ensuring a socially sustainable world. We believe in our power to promote a fair and equitable society. And I'm not just talking about the power of our company and of our business. I'm actually talking about the power of our people. The world we wish to leave for our children and grandchildren is being built by each one of us today. So let's make it count. Let's work together to create a positive and lasting impact in the lives of those who need us. Let's work together to make sure that progress and development leaves no one behind. And let's work together to lead the way and raise the bar on the role that companies can and must play on creating today a better tomorrow. I will now hand over to some extraordinary men and women who are moved by their passion of helping others. I hope they inspire all of you to volunteer, to become part of this great community, and to start changing tomorrow now. Thank you.
To start today's journey, we will now welcome three amazing people who will join us on debating about corporate volunteering in action. Sara Vicente Barreto from Morgan Stanley, also the founder of One Small Gesture, One Big Help. Ruth Lewin, the head of sustainability from Discovery Limited, and also the chairman of the board of the International Association for Volunteer Effort. And Antonio Wells, the CEO from Just a Change and an Ashoka Fellow. It is an honor to moderate this panel of three speakers who will address different dimensions of corporate volunteering, also the role of companies in creating a fair world, and the importance of working together to respond to current challenges. Sara, Ruth, and Antonio, thank you so much for accepting our invitation to share your insights with us. And let me start with you, Sara. As a volunteer, what have you learned and changed about the way you look at others, at your community, at world challenges?
So it's interesting you call me a volunteer, because I don't often call myself that, even though I am arguably. I guess given the massive place that charity takes in my life, I call myself a bit of a social entrepreneur. And thinking about it in terms of what has changed, I can tell if this is the product of being a volunteer or being a volunteer is the product of this. But I do tend to look at things with a constant problem-solving lens. You can come to me with a business problem, a family problem, a career problem, or in the case we're talking about today, a world problem. And my approach would be to start brainstorming about how we can solve it. In fact, that is the approach we have in the charity a lot. And whenever we're faced with a challenge, we go immediately into problem solving. We sometimes need to stop ourselves to empathize, evaluate if this is even something we can solve with. So I think in a nutshell, I guess what it really developed in me was a focus on how to solve problems and implement change starting right now.
Thank you, Sara. I like that perspective, and it makes a lot of sense that you see yourself as an entrepreneur. And now what I wanted to know is, as a corporate leader that believes in volunteering and that has also founded an NGO, what do you see is the value of investing in corporate volunteering? What has been the impact on you as a leader, but also what can be the role of company leaders in engaging and promoting volunteering?
So I have been part of a financial services organization for 17 years. One of the 5 values on the wall, literally, is giving back. So I have to admit that all I know is being part of a place where my social entrepreneurship was encouraged and cheered by my colleagues or my managers. So if I think of this from the side of the organization, what has this gained them, really? A first answer would be, well, retention. Given the importance un gesto, little gesture, has for me in my life, it was essential that I was part of an organization where I was able to bring my whole self to work. The second part, as I've historically been very involved in recruitment and induction of new joiners or mentoring, it's the importance that something like this has for talent attraction, even more so today than 17 years ago. I'm not going to lie, that was not a question I asked in my interviews way back when, but it is a point potential candidates and new joiners constantly pick up on in interviews or panels. Are they going to have opportunities to do this? What does the firm provide? What does it really mean to have that value on the wall? And that definitely matters for the organization. There is also a priceless professional development piece that is achieved. In my case, I have had to hone time management and leadership skills as I led a growing team at the charity. And those skills were definitely transferable to the teams that I run at the bank today. And finally, so I don't extend the answer for too long because there are many, many reasons on why corporate volunteering is a positive. It also can bring you added purpose and a much needed balance, which is positive for employee motivation and mental health. So on the second part of your question, as a leader, there are a few things that I would note that and that I can do. So being a social entrepreneur or volunteer for the most part of my career is part of me. It has allowed me to develop in a way as a person, as a professional, that I don't think I would be in the same position as I am today if I wasn't applying myself to this so-called side activities. So that's part number one. And so what that means is that I encourage people to find activities that fulfill them and to solve problems that they think need to be solved. Sometimes that's charity, sometimes it's not. But they don't need to go and create charities and travel across the world, but they definitely need to know that I will give them the space and the time to dedicate to the causes that they care about, whether that's once a week or once a year. It will depend on the individual.
Thank you. You're a woman, a mother, a corporate executive, a social entrepreneur, and a volunteer. It's a lot. So could you please share with us some tips to better balance multiple roles in life so we can also inspire people in a greater journey?
So the first answer is I do not have a time-stopping machine because I think I get asked that a lot, no doubt. And I have to admit, I also haven't figured it out entirely. So I think what has driven me over time has been to really identify what truly matters to me and what doesn't. Because what that means is that each of the things that I do and that I spend my time on, they give me energy. So yes, I do care about a fair amount of things, and there's a lot of things when you look at the bio, but I try and dial it up and down where I spend my time because time is indeed limited. But I also do try and focus on things that give me energy. And whenever that starts kind of failing a little bit, I probably have to stop myself and say, right, what am I doing that is draining me, and how can I change that? And that happens very, very often. So it's definitely not a single answer. I think over the years, what I've learned is that whilst we can all strive to be better at time management, and that is not really the holy grail. And I am an uber organized person. The holy grail really is to have your priorities relatively straight and knowing that they can change over time. And with that, you learn when to say no and you learn when to focus. And I'm still a bit of an apprentice in this journey, but I can give you an example. So in the earlier part of my career, I went on without much sleep, honest truth. And it did not even feel like a trade-off to me because I called myself a night person. I didn't think I needed that much sleep. And now as years go by and children get into the picture, I could see sleeping less no longer contributed to my performance. So actually it was starting to be the reverse. And so I slowly reversed my short nights. And now I do focus on getting a decent amount of sleep because I realized that those hours no longer were productive and it was starting to have a negative effect on my health. So again, what has worked at a period, it doesn't always work. And something else that we all seem to do is we fall prey to social pressure. So I love my friends, don't get me wrong, but there are a ton of things I don't love doing and you do just because. And I'm not going to call any of them out just in case people get offended. But benefits of the pandemic, that all went away. And I realized how much time that was consuming. And I think same as me, many people did. So I think more people joined this bit of a new way of being that I had adopted for a few years, not always super welcomed, I guess, where you stop trying to just conform so much to the norm and to all the things that you should be doing. And you get comfortable with skipping certain events or not doing certain things. And that capacity of really realizing that we have a choice with our free time is sometimes the greatest free time that we get. We a lot of times we just do things by default. So for me, this just means to live life in a very intentional manner, including with my free time.
Great tips, Sara. Thank you. I hope I remember them later. Based on your experience and knowledge, What do you see is helping to accelerate social impact and corporate volunteering? In more developed markets, we have meeting facilitation platforms, innovative corporate campaigns, or even tax incentives for volunteering. Can you share some ideas with us?
So I took notes on this one because I have a pretty long list of things that can work. So there's just so many out there, so many things out there that certainly can help corporates have a greater impact on their communities, but also, as I mentioned, help on the employee engagement. So I think you can think of them in two groups. You can think of them in the donation camp and the volunteering program, which is the big focus. If we briefly touch on donation, because that will be very closely linked to volunteer as well, you have a few things that can be very interesting. So you can have payroll giving. This is very common in the UK, and I think the Portuguese system would potentially allow for it, which is your ability to donate to charity via salary sacrifice. You maximize tax benefits, and there are lots of companies that operate this on behalf of the corporates to make it easier. Then you have the second step, which is your employees donating and you're matching. So this is also very common in the UK, and the systems can vary. You can get a matching for your own donation, or you can have a matching if you are fundraising yourself, which is starting to touch in the field of volunteering. So what it happens is that some corporates will just match you one-on-one what you've decided to give to someone, but more importantly, they will match if you go run a marathon or you go raise money for your birthday and you fundraise with your friends, because that is already a level of employee engagement that is qualified as volunteering for most charities. And that shows that from the side of the corporate, you're not just willing to give people the money for their money, but actually for their efforts as well, because they've put time and reputation on it. And then the third piece, which is the grants piece, again, it will be related to volunteering, because you can just have simple grants programs where the corporates will have available grants for causes that the employee propose, for instance, that the employees may be involved with. It can be subject to an annual vote. So we have a charity of the year at Morgan Stanley, and that will also be a charity that will benefit from a lot of volunteering opportunities on top of the money that may be on the table for them. Or you can say, you know what, there's a pot of money that our small foundation or corporate social responsibility department has, and we will allocate to causes proposed by the employees on the basis of merit and whatever criteria you define. So grants can really be a kind of a ground to start the next level of engagement for employees. When you go into the world of volunteering, the more known one in the broader sense, so you can have multiple forms, right? You can have volunteer dedicated seasons, like a dedicated month, and we have that, and we expect to reach 100% participation in volunteering activities, right? And that is a month where the CSR department will do a huge amount of effort to create these opportunities around the globe. And everyone is expected, from junior to manager, to put at least an hour into this, right? It's one-off. You may argue if it has an impact or not. It has huge team building benefits, because a lot of time you do it around team building, and it is really a dedicated month that can do it. You can call it a dedicated week, dedicated day, whatever it is. Then the other option is you have the regular opportunities. You can do anything from reading one-on-one with a child, or all the way up to you do strategic mentoring of charity CEOs as part of your leadership program. So you pair someone senior with someone senior at the charity, and they are developing a new strategy or a new fundraising avenue. That on itself is hours worked, hours volunteered that are contributing to the employee, but also contributing to the charity. So they can be as simple or complex as the corporate decides to provide. And then you just have the kind of the free volunteering option, which is anyone has the ability to choose what they volunteer on. They may be able to take holidays or to donate a certain amount of hours to a charity they choose. And, sometimes they may choose it. Sometimes some companies have kind of a database of opportunities that they may not be linked to, but they provide it to their employees. And in my case, and I think it speaks to part of your question, there is an additional grant for volunteering hours. So not only you get matched for fundraising efforts, but you also may get matched, which is less common. I see it less often, it's true, but you do see matching for volunteering activities. So the charity with which I volunteer gets an extra grant, which doesn't have to be huge, but it feels quite nice for the employee. So in summary, the programs can be as narrow or broad as the corporate decides. And naturally, many of them are established to align with its strategic objectives, industry, location. But given the employee component of it, you may also have a little bit of a free will pot that allows employees to choose the ones that they are associated with historically, or that they feel close to their hearts. One thing that is very important when you do these programs, and that I found both from the charity side and from the corporate side, is they need to be taken seriously, right? They can't be a nice to have that drops the moment that something happens and you need to go to another meeting. Obviously, commercial always comes first, and that is the nature of corporate business. But at the same time, if the employee is dedicating a certain amount of time to a charity, whether that's regular or as part of a project they're doing, that time needs to be respected and needs to be potentially compensated. Some companies will match extra hours. For the 5 hours you volunteer, you get an extra 5 hours of holiday. That's an option. And then another option is you actually get that reflected as well in your performance evaluations, right? Which actually happens in my case. That is a separate field in terms of how much does the person contribute to these extra activities of giving back. And so that really shows to people that it's important and that it's something they are encouraged to do. So, with that, I'll stop there because I've given a lot of ideas, and I do look forward to seeing, more of these programs and ideas growing from today.
Thank you, Sara, for a very interesting contributions and great insights. And now, Ruth, over to you in South Africa. And considering your experience at Discovery, what is the impact that a company can really have in a community? And what can companies also learn from their communities?
Yeah. Discovery was formed by actuaries. It's an insurance company, and it was formed in partnership with one of the biggest banks in South Africa. Today, Discovery operates in 28 countries and employs over 12,000 people across the group. Now, this could not have been achieved without great people, which is one of our values. And so we consider ourselves very fortunate as a business to have great people which have grown our business. And the reason why I'm raising this is because we have realized that in order for us to be impactful as a business, and we don't only see ourselves selling products to our clients, but we see ourselves as well as being impactful in broader society. I think generally across the globe, many countries, many communities face huge socioeconomic challenges. And it was in this regard that we early on realized that in order for us to play the kind of role that we see ourselves as a business playing, we have to involve our employees. And so, we kind of really take our core purpose as a business very seriously. And our core purpose is to make people healthier and to enhance and protect their lives. And so, our kind of socioeconomic involvement is not a peripheral kind of exercise. It is very much integrated into the way in which we do business within South Africa and across the globe. And so it is, Rita, when we started engaging communities, our intention was really to transfer the skills and expertise of our great people into these communities. And we do this really to address those social challenges I spoke about earlier, and to build the kind of resilience in a sustainable way by implementing multi-year relationships. Traditionally, business has always engaged with communities insofar as they make a financial contribution. We have realized that we have to have a much more developmental approach to supporting communities. And for us, what is important in this regard is building partnerships with a range of not only the community in which we are operating, but also the other kinds of partnerships, like with non-governmental organizations, with governments, and so on. And so, one of the things that we've also kind of seen is that by addressing these social challenges in the way in which we intend, there's a mutually beneficial relationship that exists, not only for the community where we are working, but also for the employees who are engaged. And we really feel that this is a much more respectful way to work with communities as equal partners. We feel that it's a more responsible way as a corporate citizen to demonstrate our intention and our seriousness and our respect for that community. And it certainly is a way of honing the understanding of what challenges exist, so as to ensure that business responds in a more appropriate way. Because very often what happens is that people sit in their beautiful offices, their beautiful glass and aluminium offices far away from communities, and they decide what they think the response should be. So, it's a critical element for us to approach this in a public-private way. And when I say public-private, I mean local government as well. Local government very often is the structure that provides services when it comes to these kinds of social challenges. So for us, it's important to work with local government. It's important to work with other corporate partners, as well as with the nonprofit sector, which very often is based in these communities. And what that means is that you are then pooling all the resources. So you are pooling the resources to enable a much broader reach, to address common objectives, because very often we do have common objectives, but we work in silos. And so you don't achieve the kind of results that you want to. But I think lastly, just to say that what this results in is a much better long-term sustainable approach to development issues.
Thank you, Ruth. I totally agree with you. So could you tell us what made you create your volunteering program at Discovery?
It's to be impactful. It's to address very systemically the kinds of issues and challenges which exist. It's not just to put on a plaster. It's really about how can we, in a very deep-seated way, address the kind of challenges. And I think most importantly, to give ownership of these issues to these communities. What I kind of am very aware of is that when people are really struggling and when times are really tough, they just don't see the future in the way that many of us do, who are so much more resourced and comfortably off. And so what we are trying to do is to facilitate and show communities where we work how resources very often sit within them. And it's about them realizing that they can do it. So we're very cautious about not creating a kind of dependency on organizations like ourselves, but to facilitate that people realize what resources are sitting with them, and they are able to then take those issues up themselves and find the solutions to address them.
Ruth, as the leader of one of the biggest volunteering networks in the world, IAVE, what do you see is the real contribution of volunteering to the Sustainable Development Goals?
Yeah, I mean, the one thing that we've realized, there are no shortcut solutions to community development. One of the critical elements of implementing interventions is stakeholder engagement. And so it's really important to recognize and to understand which stakeholders exist, what kind of engagement is required, and for us to kind of apply the necessary, alongside all of these stakeholders, to apply the necessary solutions and interventions to ensure success. And so, from our experience, I'd like to just focus on some of the problems that we've found. Firstly, that stakeholder engagement takes a large chunk of your time, and you need to work continuously and consistently. You know, in the corporate world, everything works according to the kind of financial year. You get the money out, you try and push, you know, you've decided what your target's going to be, what issue you're going to address, what product you're going to deliver, and it's all done quickly. But when you work in communities, it doesn't work like that. So you've got to apply extreme importance to the process of establishing and maintaining trustful relationships if your intention is to address the problem in a very systemic way. If you're wanting to work with government, which you should do, because that's where the resources really sit, what we come with is an iota of what is required. But what we have to accept that government systems and processes are extremely bureaucratic. And we were certainly required to spend a large amount of time engaging government officials at various levels to ensure buy-in and approval for our activities, because when we leave, they're still there. And the other thing is that we had to be very conscious of the fact that we were working in a community that was highly politicized. I don't think that will be any different for many other communities around the world. Therefore, you know, government officials seek strategies to further their own political agendas. And how do you navigate that space? So, you know, the other is that communities have a depressed nature, where communities feel despondent because of the volume of socioeconomic challenges which they face. So getting communities to engage and having an improved sense or a heightened sense of hope is a very lengthy and challenging process. So partnerships are critical in this instance, as communities cannot depend on corporates alone. The other thing that we found was that community members often expect corporates to meet every need and address every problem that they are faced with. So it is very important for us to engage community members on very specific areas and not to deviate from that focus, because you can be taken, you know, on a particular road, which really kinds of brings everything to the fore. So we have to be very responsible in that regard. And so companies must be conscious of the fact that government and communities don't operate within corporate timeframes. And for this reason, it is very important to exercise patience as delays could occur. So I needed to say that. I know your question was very much around the SDGs and how we address that, but I needed to emphasize that because we've really learned the hard way about how long these processes take. You know, we thought that we could go into the orange farm community, which is the poorest community within the broader Johannesburg geographical area. And we thought we could do 5 years, but it's taken us a lot longer. And we certainly haven't even reached all the targets that we aim to. But what we do know is that we went in with a good understanding before we addressed it. We did lots of research. We engaged with a lot of the stakeholders in that community. And we have very strong NGOs operating there whom we can hand our project over to. And we believe will continue the work that we started out there.
Ruth, thank you so much. You can't see me, but I was nodding and agreeing with you and commenting. And yes, partnerships and collaboration takes time, and addressing challenges takes time. So we need to be patient and consistent.
I'd like to mention one thing that I actually forgot to say, and this was an important lesson for us early on in terms of understanding beneficiary needs as well as the broader community in which the beneficiary operates. In about 2013, 2012, we went to visit an organization called LIV, L-I-V. It's an NGO that operates mainly in the KwaZulu-Natal region of South Africa. And they basically established a kind of home which included all the kinds of things that children need, but it was a home for vulnerable children, children who were HIV positive, or children who were orphaned because their parents were HIV positive. But it was an amazing organization we went to. I mean, what they did, they had a school there and everything, and it was just fantastic. And we went to visit this organization, and we were then exposed. We were about to support them, but we were exposed to the broader community around. And this organization called Live was like an oasis in a desert of absolute abject poverty. Nothing but mud houses, which the minute the rains came down would collapse and wash away. Hungry children, impoverishment that you've never, ever seen. And we realized that that is when we decided to launch the Orange Farm Project, because we realized we couldn't send our KwaZulu-Natal staff, who were about 800 kilometers away from us at the head office, into a community, into an organization to do volunteerism, when the broader community around it was in absolute need. And that's when we realized that we needed to change our approach to volunteerism, that we can't take on one little organization. We needed to understand broadly what the kind of challenges were. And I just wanted to mention that because it was a real eye-opener in terms of taking on multi kind of social issues within a community. Obviously, we cannot address everything, but taking on multi issues, like, for example, in the Orange Farm case, youth unemployment was a major problem. I think at the time we found there was 70% youth unemployment. So that was something which we really needed to address. The second was the health of those young people. That was the second issue. And thirdly, if you're wanting to kind of at the heart of it address youth, then we needed to look at beyond, skills training for them, one, in terms of addressing unemployment, but also once they've got those skills, because they said to us in the research, we are tired of being trained and not having a job at the end. So bringing the various partners together was then to look at immediately once they went through their basic engineering training, which is what we had set up, is then putting them into full-time employment. So, you kind of take on multiple issues, but with one sector of society at the heart of it. I'm not sure whether I made absolute sense with that example.
You made a lot of sense, and I think it's interesting because we are, as a company, looking at a more integral approach where volunteering also plays a role, and where we address also challenges in a multi-layer perspective. So I think it's interesting to hear your experience with a specific community and the time you took and the time you needed. So it's really interesting. And I would like to ask you, when you think about volunteering, and of course as IAV's president, how do you see volunteering in the next decades? So challenges, evolution, trends.
Yeah, I mean, look, I think that the one thing that we've got to disabuse ourselves is that when it comes to challenges within socioeconomic challenges within society, that it's government's role. I think we all have a role to play as citizens, as corporate citizens, and as individuals within our respective countries to contribute alongside governments to start addressing this. It's unsustainable for us to have the larger parts of the world suffering from poverty and inequality, and a small number of people amassing wealth all the time. So I think just to start off with, it's about responsibility. It's not about charity, it's about responsibility. And I want to just stress that. I think it's important for us to take the SDGs seriously and to do what is required to bring about sustainable systemic change. I want to raise that again, that it's about changing the systems. The systems are not working. And how do we address it fundamentally and developmentally? Whether we are in the corporate or government or the nonprofit sector, we have a responsibility to join forces and to address the real challenges that, as they are expressed in the UN SDGs. I think the UN recognizes that multi-stakeholder partnerships as an essential vehicle to meeting the SDGs, and the call for stakeholders from various sectors to collectively support interventions is a critical thing. So, you know, we need to, the models are there. It's important. We cannot work on our own. And I think this can really be done by sharing our financial resources, by intensifying our knowledge base, and by bringing our expertise to bear on the issues that need to be addressed. We really need to create the value which is required to achieve the SDGs. And you know, Rita, if we don't mobilize ourselves as citizens of the world, we won't be able to address the challenges that nations face. I mean, we look at just at COVID and what it has done to all of us. You know, we understand that. I'm not sure to what extent you have kept apprised of what's happening on the African continent, for example, and the lack of vaccines to protect ourselves against COVID. You know, First Nations around the world in the north, they could afford, they grabbed, they went for all the vaccines that were required. And we are sitting today with a variant because we did not get the vaccines in time. And we don't have enough vaccines on the continent. I'm not talking about South Africa, on the continent. And yes, we do have a situation where there are people who are unwilling to be vaccinated. That goes for all across the world. But the real situation is that we did not have vaccines in time. Now, this is a global issue. This is an issue of, you know, all the citizens of the world. And we need to work together as nations. We cannot say, well, the poor can wait, because it's the poor who always suffer a lot more when their conditions are not met appropriately.
Thank you, Ruth, for your very inspiring remarks and also for sharing your experience at Discovery and IAVE. And now to you, Antonio. Tell us about what attracts people to volunteer with an organization like yours, Just a Change, and how important are corporate volunteers?
I would list 5 main features of our volunteering programs that I think is the ones who attracts more. First of all, our programs, our volunteering, it's a hands-on experience, and it's a physical activity. So people need to put on their boots and on their gloves and on their dirty clothes to come with us to work in construction. It has a lot of offline socialization with other volunteers and households. So it's a group volunteering where you engage with several people. So I think it's one of our main features and what attracts a lot of people. It's a kind of apprenticeship or a workshop in construction, and I think most of us want to learn a bit about construction and making having some technical skills around this subject. And I think the main 2 features, these last 2. First, it confronts you with a severe and intimate poverty, and that commits you. You enter in a house, in a home of a poor family. You see the most intimate part of them, which is the house, and you see the severe poverty that they are living within. And I think that's challenging, it's engaging, and it commits you to this problem and to come back again. And also you see the work you're gonna do, it matters, and you can see it with your own eyes because it's a visual impact. and you can feel it with your own heart. So I think these would be the 5 features that I can signal of our volunteering programs. About corporate volunteers, for us it's very important. It allows us to do more work, because it's a lot of handy power. It fosters a strong network and a community around our project, because we have a lot of people coming to our works, and it helps us to build a strong community. And the most important, it allows us to engage with the active citizens of our economy, people that are working, and engaging them with this social problem. We have some stories of workers in companies engaging with this problem, and I think it happened a lot in EDP. I remember a story where a coworker of yours went to do volunteering with us in a house, which was a neighbor of him, and he was not aware of it. So after the work, after his volunteering day, he tried to engage and to bring their families and their friends and the other neighbors to help even more this household that he met. So I think these 3 topics, so it allows us to do more, it fosters a strong network and community around Just a Change, and engages the active citizens in this social problem.
Thank you, Antonio. And how important is it for companies and NGOs to work together to respond to the challenges of our time, such as energy poverty?
I think that every problem in our society it's complex. Otherwise, it wouldn't exist, or it would be soon solved. So problems that are spread in our world and resist through several years or decades, it's because they are very complex and very difficult to solve on the root. Most of our solutions are mostly trying to solve or attenuate the consequences of that problem, but tackling it on the root and making it to disappear, it's often very, very complex and difficult. And for that, so you need to try to create a systemic change around that problem. And you need various actors to do it in several approaches. And also, if you see someone's in someone's life to change the life of someone, you need to have an holistic approach and almost a tailor-made approach, and that's impossible to do alone. And I say not only NGOs who need to work together, but we all need to work together. NGOs, companies, governments, individuals, because that's the only way to respond to the main challenges of our time and trying to shift the path that they are driving. Because they need to be tackled on the root and not just by the solving or trying to treat the consequences of it. And it's difficult. It's very difficult to work together and to develop this kind of networks. So it's not only very important, but it's very challenging and complex to solve.
Thank you, Antonio. And now let's talk about partnerships. We've heard Ruth talk about her experience. I would like to know, what do you consider to be the key factors for impactful partnerships?
I think there are three key factors of an impactful partnerships. First of all, you need to have a strong confidence and a strong trust between partners. If there's no trust, the partnership will remain small, and each part will be very cautious in the steps that are making. You will bring bureaucracy and a lot of accountability and so on, because you are more afraid of the risk that you are taking with this partnership, and an internal risk and so on. So you are focused also to protect yourself in this partnership. But if you have a full trust and full confidence between partners, they are able to take risks and to try to make things different, focus on results, and so on. So this is the first. Secondly, you need to have an alignment in the vision. So each partner must share their vision. It's impossible to have different visions or visions that are not aligned if you want to have like an impactful partnership. So I would say this is very important also. And then you need to be very pragmatic. You need to have a pragmatic approach to generate synergies and added value to each part, because that's a partnership main, right? The idea of a partnership is together we can do more by doing ourselves. So you need to have synergies. You need to or be more effective together, or be more efficient, or generating new value that you cannot do it alone. But you need to be pragmatic, understanding what's the value that you are taking from this partnership, or the value you want or you need for this partnership, and the value you can bring. If this is not clear to each part, I would say that the partnership will not last very long, and it won't grow, because it's not clear for each part what's the value that you are taking from it. So pragmatical approach, I think it's also very important.
Thank you, Antonio. Great ideas for partnerships. I have one final question for all of you. What would you challenge us to do in the next 10 years? Sara, let's hear you first.
That was a surprise question. I think as you think of the next 10 years, at the end, I am a finance person, and numbers kind of dictate a lot of what I do. I think it's important to look back and evaluate the impact you've had versus the original objectives, and say, right, did we really make progress? Did we even set out the right objectives? Because you can say, if it's employee engagement, then you can look at the hours. If it's actually making a difference in certain communities, then you can do that. If it's marketing and PR, then you can look at that. So I think that's the first step, in terms of really challenge yourselves on what have we done? Are we happy with the outcome? I think the second challenge I would say is ask the employees what they want, because I think if employee engagement is a big part of the story, which I imagine it would be, on top of obviously the strategic goals of the company, then it's interesting to show them some of what's done and what they want to do, because you also don't want to make it as an imposition, and this is kind of a one box, one size fits all, and this is all you can do. Sorry, thank you very much. So I think I would be really open to people's ideas, because I think especially with the newer generations that are coming into the workforce. This is highly valued and they will have opinions on it. And I think the third one I would say is to, keep going, do more. The challenge sometimes is to keep going because there are so many conflicting priorities. So I would just say, make sure you're doing more.
Thank you, Sara. Ruth, I will now pass over to you.
I think firstly, we need to, they say charity begins at home. I think to firstly look at what is it that as a company, what company contribution can we make to a particular social challenge, and ensure that your company's broader sustainability approach, broader philosophy of, we have a shared value approach in our company. How do we bring value not only to our clients, but also to our suppliers, to our partners, and to broader society? And we all live by that. And I think if you, and as a business, understand what is that brings us all together, and how you then can address that particular, a challenge in where you operate, whether it be in Portugal, whether it be in any other part of the world. How do you bring that common goal to, on the one hand, do business, but on the other hand, to also do good for society? Then I think if you have that common objective, you're on the road to really being able to make a contribution to broader society. I'm not sure whether that answers your question, but I think that is really important. You can't have a situation where your employees are on the one hand addressing a particular social challenge, but your business is pulling away from it and doing business in another way. So I'm not implying that is what you do, but I think when you have that commonality that exists between the way in which you do business and the way in which your employees interact with the community, then you are on a good path. And so I would say that if it's worked to date, and if your core purpose and your vision as a business is well in place, then continue doing what you've done to date, because you will continue to be successful. If it's not, then that's where you should start. Because I think it's very clear to all of us what the kind of challenges are that exist and what our responsibilities are as individual employees in terms of contributing towards eradicating those. But it's not always clear what businesses are doing and whether businesses are being ethical in every respect of the word. So I think it's very important to have those very, very integrated and clearly defined.
And finally, Antonio.
That's a big question. But I would challenge you to lead the energetic transition and the fight for energy poverty in the countries that you are operating. So I think you have between all actors, maybe EDP is the one who has more resources to create this transition and to this fighting for energy poverty possible. So I think you should lead this, and not only by investing in external solutions like Just a Chance, and hopefully you'll be keeping doing it, but also as I see you're doing, aligning all your business strategy towards that. So you were saying that you have a goal in 2030 to be all green. I would say not just to be all green, but to foster others to do it. The people that you are serving with your products and services, they all must be all green, your suppliers. So you could be like the cornerstone in this subject. So I think you should lead it and put make an all-in approach to this.
Thank you all for your participation and testimonies, great insights, great ideas, and great messages. We at EDP share your energy and passion for having a positive impact in our communities. And volunteering has been a strategic pillar of our relationship with them. That's why next month we will present a new strategy for 2025, and we will continue to engage our volunteers in the positive impact we want to generate. And now, let's listen to an inspiring guest who can tell us so much about changing lives and the role we can all play. She's an entrepreneur, an advocate for women's rights, co-founder of Our Place, and co-founder and founding CEO of the Malala Fund, together with Nobel Prize winner Malala Yousafzai. We welcome Shiza Shahid in a conversation with our Marta Bastos. Hi, Marta.
Thank you very much.
The stage is yours.
Thank you. Shiza, welcome and thank you for your presence. Growing up in Pakistan, being a girl and living through a time particularly turbulent, what led you to decide to help change what was happening in your society?
Growing up, I saw that disparity between the opportunities that I had and the ways in which so many millions of girls around me were denied their right to go to school, were denied their right to live free from fear, free from violence, free from harm. And the only thing that separated us was the lottery of birth. I became very passionate about social justice, about girls' education, about women's rights. And so I spent a lot of my time volunteering anywhere they would have me. When I was 18, I was very fortunate to get a full scholarship to study at Stanford University in the United States. But while I was at college, things in my hometown, in my home country, were getting a lot worse. I realized I had to try and make a difference. My experience of building the Malala Fund, building Our Place, was one of really climbing an uphill road. And so, having faced a tremendous amount of rejection, I knew how difficult it was for entrepreneurs who were building social businesses to get their ideas off the ground. And so I wanted to be part of changing that and to prove that when you invested in ideas that were mission-driven, when you invested in founders who were underrepresented, that they would in fact perform even better than other investments. And I've had the privilege of investing in incredible entrepreneurs who are building big solutions to the world's biggest challenges. I think organizations like EDP can have so much impact in the world. Environmental impact is one of the biggest areas that businesses and corporations need to double down and invest. Also in creating a team and a culture that is inclusive. Bias, pattern recognition is how our brain computes all that information that is thrown its way. It starts to form things into patterns and make judgments. And so becoming aware that we all have unconscious bias is a very important step to building more equal workplaces, societies, communities. I don't think there's a lack of caring. I think that we don't know how to make a difference. And we feel like it is not our place to make a difference. But what I found in my life is that big change starts with small steps, starts with small actions. I believe we're all hardwired for compassion, we're hardwired for connection, and there's so much suffering in the world. And to just know that you've impacted even one person, I think there's nothing more rewarding than that.
Thank you so much, Shiza. It was such a privilege to have you here today.
Thank you, Marta. What a great interview. Well, I think we can all agree that today we've learned a lot from our speakers on how to best activate corporate volunteering and transform the communities we live in. Again, thank you for taking the time to be with us. And to close today's program, we will now leave you with Martin Salgado, Head of Social Impact Coordination Office at EDP. From my side, I can say that it's been a pleasure to host this event, and I hope you're feeling inspired to commit to a better and healthier world for all. Take care, and I hope to see you soon.
Thank you, Rita. First of all, allow me to express my appreciation for our incredible lineup of speakers. Sara, Ruth, Antonio, and Shiza, thank you for taking the time to share your thoughts and experience with us on the very important topic of volunteering. Your comments on how we, as volunteers, can affect the life of those in need when we contribute with our time and skills were certainly inspirational. Also, your personal example is a reference for us, both as company and as individuals. We will take in the key learnings from today and apply them, ensuring that we achieve the ambitious goals set by EDP's new social strategy. To all of those who participated, internal and external, let me thank you for your attention and interest. Please remember that we can only make a difference in the life of others if we work together, building resilience, inclusion, and social accountability. This event is a testament to the significance EDP puts into the volunteering program, not only as a tool to engage our employees, but also as a means to embrace our sustainability strategy, increase our social impact, and strengthen our global community. The world faces incredible challenges today, but each one of us can be an agent of change and contribute positively to our society. This is why we invite you to join our global community and get involved today. At EDP, the volunteering program is a key part of our value proposition, and we are focused on providing the support you need and creating the conditions that will suit you the best to accomplish your professional goals and personal goals. And we challenge each one of you to take action and dare to volunteer, to come and be part of our team, to play a role, and to start right now. How can you get started? By warming up Christmas for those who need it the most. The Christmas Global campaign has already been launched, and this year we have set two key goals. One, to support underprivileged families by offering solidarity baskets with food and essential goods. Two, to bring joy to vulnerable children that reside in social institutions by acquiring gifts so that they can also have a deserved surprise on Christmas night. Please check how you can help magnify our cause in the best possible way. Your participation will make these families as happy as they deserve to be. And that's all from me. Again, thank you for your time. It was a pleasure to share this moment with you.
We seem to be stuck on this idea that there is no choice, right? And if something needs doing, you can choose to do it. So go make some change.
Be very clear on what your objectives are, be very clear on what your targets are, and be very clear on what your timelines are in order to deliver.
I would challenge everyone to look around, see where each one of us could generate a positive impact, and do it.
Dare to go out of your comfort zone, to know other people and different realities. Work together, activate yourself.
Believe in your own power. So believe that you can make a difference. You are not a drop in the ocean. You are the entire ocean in a drop.
All of us can be agents of change. Like Alex Edmonds said, when you are serving society and running the business with a purpose, you are growing the pie.
Volunteering can have immediate and direct impact either on the society, the beneficiaries, but also on the people that do it.
We still have a long way to go to guarantee a fair and inclusive society. Volunteering is a key vehicle, and we rely on all our employees to multiply our impact.